Welcome back to Porch Light for the Prodigal. We're starting part 2 with Joy today. We had so much fun with her and the conversation was so great we couldn't fit it all into one. So join us for part 2 right now. You have such a good balance of the reality of I don't deserve any of this. And what I have to offer, the Creator, is nothing but He wants me. And at the same time, He wants me bad enough that I was worth it. And I've heard you speak to that.
Makes me want to cry.
Yeah, I've heard you speak to that, and that's something that I'm so inspired by your life is you can say those things, and you've genuinely left it at the feet of the cross. You've done that, not a check, but like you're doing it daily. But also your recognition that the Master of the universe wanted you, and that comes with some ownership and identity. How have you navigated that?
Well, again, we got past the custody stuff, rough childhood, whatever. Got to where what I thought was going to be like the highlight, kind of, my knight in
Happy
shining.
Ever After.
Yeah, my knight in shining armor came, like, he rescued me, I'm in this safe place, like, things, drug-free for real this time, like, I knew that I knew that I knew.
Yeah.
And it was like, first things first was the custody thing, was kind of where it shook me. And then, of course, life got busy for us. We opened a business, we had Addison, then had another kid, and so it was like moving houses, we were building and selling, so like a lot of busyness in life kind of just kept us, what I feel like it was almost a season of rest, kind of, even though it was busy. Like when the babies were little, like, and everything revolved around nap time. It was just a beautiful, I felt like God protected me from kind of even having to work on a lot of things. It was just like, Joy, just
have a minute.
Yeah, just have a minute. And of course in that, if I wanted to like really get into it, there was tons of battles with the custody stuff. Like that's been a battle since day one. And God has restored that, which is so cool, so cool.
So we just talked about this in the last podcast. You not only were the prodigal, but you've got to experience your prodigal coming home, your babies coming back.
Yeah, it's crazy. But first, God wanted to let me know that my identity is not a mom.
No.
And I was like, what? Like, my identity? I'm a mom. Like, so all those years momming, I'm like, I'm a mom, I'm a wife. Like, I feel like I was born to be a wife and a mom. Like, that's what I always wanted to be growing up. And yes, God has called me to those things, and He has called me to steward them, and I should steward them well. It's a lofty task at hand we're talking about here. For people, getting the opportunity to come into the kingdom of heaven is no joke, you know what I mean? And being able to, a godly wife. Right? What is
Proverbs
that?
lady.
What is that? What is that?
Yeah.
Again, identity, right?
Yeah.
Identity. We're not going to talk about that. But so with the churning of events with the custody of the boys, things were rough when they'd come, but they had to come 3 weekends out of the month. And as they progressed to get older is when trials started showing up more and more, because when your kids are little and you're home, I know it's hard for mamas to understand, and it's exhausting and it's tiring, but all of the stress and all the heartaches right on the pillow right beside your bed, like it's all there with you. It's like the chaos is within the four walls, and it's just beautiful. But when it starts coming in and out, and then being contaminated with the world, things get chaotic. And so the boys' dad, obviously, he doesn't know Jesus. He's not a follower of Christ. Pray for him still. The boys they lived in Athol with their dad. So of course, like all their friends and everything were there, right? So as they started to get older, they would share things like their dad, my dad said, once I reach 13, I never have to come here. And, saying, so their dad was putting stuff in their mind. It wasn't just, they just didn't like me, you know what I mean? Like there was no real reason. At this point, I was like a normal mom, you know what I mean? There didn't have abuse. They didn't, you know what I mean? Nothing. Like, there was no reason for a child to not want to be near their mom, and to have the animosity towards their siblings that they did, unless it was being outsourced into their ears. Like, anyways, it was what year? 20. It was probably 4.5 years ago. Because Eric's 18, they said one Sunday taking him back, I'd take him back to the gas station. One Sunday taking him back, they said, Mom, I don't ever want to come here again. I hate you. We never want to come back here again. And I was like, what? Like I knew like they would say, you know what I mean, like say hurtful things and stuff, but they were definite. Like,
They were resolute in it.
we're not coming back. Like, and even with the fights that we'd had, and they were kind of like, I don't want to come, you know. Some of it you just kind of attribute to. Obviously, they have a broken home, like, and even we talk about it now. As much as I did move out at 13, I can't understand the blended home. I haven't lived that, so I mean, I can imagine that it's a lot. You know what I mean? And there were seasons throughout where they wanted to stay with me and not go back to their dad. You know, so like. I'd experienced some joy in that, you know. Anyways, me and Kyle had done praying and talked about it, and we said, well, boys, if you're gonna, you know, they think they were 13 and 14 or something at that time, you know, getting licensed and, you know, and they said, if you guys are gonna be mature and you can like keep communication open and, you know, we want relationship, you know, like, and if there's something happening, like we can say, come home for this weekend, like, can we be mature about this? You know, we're not gonna be like, I hate you, I'm never coming around again. Like, we could see if this is going to work, right? So we kind of let them play that, you know, let them have the reins in that. And, you know, sure enough, within weeks, months, you know, it was no communication at all, right? So, like, yeah, that was a really rough time. But that Sunday, I would got home. Of course, I felt like I'd had a heart attack. It was like breath was taken away, and I remember that night. I'm like, God, like, I need to hear from you. And he's like I was praying and praying. He's like, well, Joy, pick up your Bible if you want to hear from me. And I literally, I'm like, God, but
I don't want to.
I don't want to pick up my Bible. I was laying in bed. He's like, can you at least pick up your Bible app? I said, okay. Count it all joy. Count it all joy. And I just lost it. I was like, okay, here we go. And then from there, it was like he just really revealed that like these seasons were like beautiful. Like it's joy. Like I get to hear from the King of Kings.
In your worst moment.
It's worth it. Definitely worth it.
I'm so impressed with you because the heartache from the first part of life, those were like the setups to the softening. And Lucas has talked a little bit about that. He's always a little bit, he gets a little embarrassed, but he's blown away. He's like, I can literally feel like God's softening my heart and making me tender in ways where I was very hard and calloused and
it is vulnerable and uncomfortable. You know, you're like, because it's raw.
And it's so, if you don't get to that moment. So I guess the interesting thing too from my side is what the worst moment that you talk about people hitting rock bottom. They have to hit rock bottom to make the choice to turn. But rock bottom can look like a lot of different things. Rock bottom might have been the part where you turned from the substance abuse, but rock bottom happens again when God has to come in and
again,
break your heart.
And again. And again.
There's a song we sing with the kids, and it says that, break my heart, make it yours. Yeah. And that's a really odd thing. Like, that's hard to understand. It's an odd thing to ask for.
Yeah, it is. It's, and it's just only by His grace that He has allowed me to see the beauty in it. Like, count it all joy. Like, you can't make that up. No. Like, that's like people are like, yeah, the demons know there's a God and stuff. It's like, no, like, I've actually, like, I've heard Him. Yeah. Like, I've heard Him. Obviously, we know His word's alive, but like I know that I've divinely heard from Him. So like, having experienced that, you know what I mean? It's going to change how you see everything. Like, and so, anyways, He gave me that verse, which was super, super obviously encouraging to say, you got this, walk this out, count it all joy. And I'm like, count it all joy. My kids just really? Count it all joy. What does that even mean? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know what that meant, And then even in all this, after that, like, there's guilt with, like, my heart is being broke right here because of these, my boys, but it's like, now how are you showing up for your two little ones? So there's a lot happening, like, within my soul. It's like this, your
major conflict.
Yes, it's like, show up for them, but then is it you don't care for the other ones? You just basically lost your kids, and little did I know, it wasn't going to be until literally the year I turned 18 that God brought them back. So it was, 3 years in the wilderness, basically. Yeah. And God had revealed these when we talked about bringing our bet. I did some really good Bible studies on shame and on bringing God your worst. And it was not knowing that this specific trial was the setup for God to allow me to withstand the next thing that was coming down the pipe. You know what I mean? Like,
Check to survive that one. Buckle up. We got
but I
more.
mean, it's true. Like, how
Yeah.
often, if we would actually lean in when God is trying to show us how much more equipped we would be for the next battle. Like I tell people, we don't train for the battle in battle. Like, it's coming. And actually, that's what gets me into the excitement of what I do now.
Yeah.
Because this is why I do what I do. Because we need strong minds to be able to withstand the physical aspect. And obviously it's an emotional aspect at your kids, but you still, you know, I still have to get up and do the laundry. I still have to do what, like, you have the physical, like we have to run the physical race. And how are we going to do that if we just victimize ourselves, or if we're just like, woe is me, or we're exhausted mentally, physically, all of the things, like,
And not letting it harden you.
right. So then you're just walking around and then how is God magnified in that? If you can't be completely open, like, yeah, I suck. You know what I mean? Like, and just because, like, God saved me doesn't mean that everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows. Like, and, you know, I even am skeptical of how to, like, word that, because I don't want people that are maybe new believers, or maybe they're not even believers yet. Like, that can kind of scare them. Like, oh, I see, like, oh my gosh, Joy, like, you went through all of these things and then, yay, you're saved. Now you actually probably went through more heartbreaking stuff than you did all of your entire life.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, maybe I don't want that Jesus thing. But if people could really understand who Christ is, and this is eternity that we're talking about here. Like, this isn't, you know, your kids, and I don't mean this loosely, like, your kids don't want to be around you. Joy, like, we're talking about eternity. The King of Kings met you there. Like, this is worth it. It's worth it.
And sometimes in those decisions other people make, it feels like that's the end. Like, that's the end of the story. But it's not. There's more. So this was like 4 years ago then?
4 years ago, yeah. And, you know, because of that heartbreak of my kids is when I was like, okay, like, I'm a mom. Am I not a mom now?
Yeah.
That's the identity part we're talking about. I'm like, what, you know, what do I do with this? I'm like a mom to some, not a mom to some. Like, how do you separate the two of those, you know? Like, and Kyle was always really supportive, like, this is just seasons, you know, and I was like, no, it's not. You know what I mean? Like, so as much as I'm like, you know, the joy and I'm like getting excited about this, don't get me wrong, like, I was nasty throughout the whole thing still, you know, having moments of hardness and praying, like, God soften me, and opening up my word, and, you know, like, having to wrestle, like it's a, I mean, Paul talks about it. We're fighting the fight. It's you know, different magnitude depending upon the season we're in, you know, but it's every single day we're fighting our flesh, you know. And one of the biggest things I learned through all of this is, like, pain in the humanness is the biggest liar. It is the biggest liar.
Which is why you ended up in the job description that you have now, is because you have to overcome mentally that physical pain to push on to the stuff that's really good.
Yeah. And God gave me exercise.
So tell me about that part of your story. So you're 3 years, how long ago did you start Aging with Grace?
2021.
So it would have been right about that same time?
Yeah, it was like, you know, it was probably that next summer when the boys, and like, I had always kind of worked, not always, but like after Addison, I started running, mainly like every woman, you want to lose weight, right?
Yeah.
So here we are running, you know, like, before you know it, like,
that's not what I did.
dieting and running, right?
Yeah.
But before you know it, like, ended up like falling in love with like health and strength training and stuff. And Kyle was like, well, why don't you just get your personal training? And I'm like, well, like, that did feel like a very big passion, because like women, I just knew what I needed going through all of that. I just wanted to believe in somebody till they believed into themselves, because that's what I knew that I needed.
Yeah.
But I was like thinking, like, yeah, like, Kyle, let's do this, but the kids were still a little bit little. I'm like, that'll be like my passion project when you need to be busy, when your kids
And
are
you
grown up.
homeschooled all of them, right? Or
Just the two little
Just the
ones.
2 little ones, okay.
So it was like, I'm thinking, like, wait, you know? But anyways.
For the moment.
Yeah, Kyle's like, just do it. You know, and then God, not knowing that God set that whole thing up, that those women, and some of those women would be the very things that would carry me through.
Yeah.
Like, God is cool. God is so cool.
He gave you what you needed.
He did. Like, because growing up too, like, you know, you see all that dysfunction. Like, I didn't have, you know, friends. I didn't have, meaningful relationships because I wasn't even taught, what does that even mean? You know what I mean? And when you're 13 already in a relationship, I mean, you didn't even have time to like build any relationships anyways. Like, so like as far as a community of women and what that looks like and how to grow, you know, as like, whether you're a Christian or not, like we need fellowship, you know? So to not have that was.
I love that you started Aging with Grace so that you could be the thing you didn't have, but that gave you the thing you've never had.
It's crazy how God
cool.
works like that. It's cool. Yeah, because I was always like, I just want to help someone, like one person. I want to just stand in the gap until she believes in herself. Because a lot of times, you know, when we talk about the health aspect, a lot of times women are coming. Once we pull back the layers, it's shame. It's shame related. It's really not the number on the scale. Yeah, that's details, but really it's an identity crisis. You know what I mean? Whether they've been fed something or they think they need to be a certain way or fit a certain part. Like honestly, that's what it stems from a lot of times. Not always, but a lot of times. I mean, because we're so hard on ourselves, and you know, the dialogue that's been playing in there for so many years, you know, has beat us down to the point of where, oh my gosh, my worth is if I would lose some weight. Everybody seems happy when they're skinny, and you're like, oh my goodness, like. So you know, we take all this stuff in as we're growing and stuff. It's huge, like for a woman and her identity, like her health. I use health term loosely, but the way she sees herself is a big part of how her Christian walk will be.
Yeah. So you're very discreet in your business and who your clients are. But I've heard from some of your clients that I'm close to, and your reputation is so good for the way that you push and you come beside them and you love on them and you encourage them. So to your credit, like you're doing the fruit that you're producing, even though you're discreet about it, it's God's letting that get out there. So
which is really, really neat because it's like, you know, you don't, like we talked about, like I don't know, you never really know what God's doing, you know, and sometimes, you know, he just wants us to be obedient, you know, and in that we may see the harvest or we may not, you know what I mean? We're just, he brings the harvest, that's not up to us. But anyways, the beginning of Aging with Grace, like the specificity of the people that he has brought through those doors, like whether it's people of no religion, some religion, people that, you know, we blend with, not blend with, people that grew me, like, it's been like divine, really. Even had the chance to people know Jesus now. Like it's just absolutely mind blowing.
And some of them probably watched part of your story. Is that fair? That they watched you grow up. They watched some of it play out.
What's kind of crazy is I feel like a lot of them haven't.
Didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is even, and a lot of them like even now that kind of come around, like people that don't know Jesus that kind of reach out, like they don't know me, like 'cause they don't like, you know, because I have Instagram or whatever, they don't even know who I am, but God has brought them. It's almost like he's blinded them to my shouting about Jesus, you know. Like oh man, he's kept them from hearing about it till they get in the walls, and then it's like hey, guess what, you know. But so yes, God provided the four walls there, and exercise, and he used exercise to heal me, and you know, I started just falling in love with it. Not, I mean, you obviously steward your health, but not understanding foundational block that was going to be for the next phase. You know what I mean? So
your boys, they're 4 years down the road now from that original name, the last heartache. Where is it at now? Where are you with your boys?
Well, they're home. They're home.
It's kind of a big deal.
It's a huge deal. But even in the timing of that, we look at the timing of that. God brought them home after, it was 1 year after. So I walked through that trial of that until 2024, the beginning of 2024, when he would shake my identity as a wife. And say, "This is things to steward, Joy. This isn't who you are. This is not." I mean, and I know that, I don't know if that even comes out right. You know what I mean? Because obviously, like you're a mom, Joy. You are a wife, but I'm actually a daughter of the King. That's who I am, and that is like the most important thing. And if I walk in that truth, I will steward those things very well.
Yeah.
You know, so that's who I am, and then who he allows me to steward or be or whatever. Because what happens if something does happen, and you know, what happens if I do wake up tomorrow and don't get to be a wife? Is that going to, which again, you know, something happen in our marriage to where it was like, okay, maybe, you know, I took such pride in being a wife and doing all of these things to be this perfect wife, and yet it still wasn't good enough. And I don't mean that in a bad way, that it
Yeah.
wasn't good enough, like for my husband,
Yeah.
but it just, those aren't the things that matter. Like, you know what I mean? So it's me doing these things to try to find some worth. It's that identity thing yet again. Like, no matter what my husband does or doesn't do, like, I am still worthy. Like, I am still a daughter of the King. And which in turn, when you do walk through those trials, it's going to give me the fruit of forgiveness. It's going to give me the fruit to walk through those things, because it's not hinging on, oh my gosh, if I don't, you know, act this way or whatever, like I have to be a wife, like that's what it is, you know, or not a wife because, you know, things split or whatever it is. Like, it's like, no, you see the whole world differently when you understand your value is not changing, because your value is Christ. Christ does not change. And that is who I am.
I think there's power in knowing that your identity is in Christ, and you are all these other things, like you've said. But when you start accidentally putting those confidences in those other things, and it's just natural to do that. After the accident last year, and it's been almost 1 year, and we've talked a lot about, like, that should have ended differently. Had that ended differently, Lucas, where would you be?
Right.
Kids, where would you be? School, where would it be? It doesn't all hinge on me. And so what would that have looked like? Who would have picked up the part that is gonna that put too much confidence in me, or too much, or me, like if I didn't exist anymore? And it inspired some very interesting conversations and a lot of tears, because that can't be part of the equation. And so whether I'm putting all my confidence in Lucas and my trust in him keeping us secure, it's exactly what you said. If tomorrow he's gone, then do I not have that faith? Does that crumble me? You almost have to, we talk with the kids, you have to decide ahead of time. You have to decide in the moment where it's not hard, that no matter what's coming, I've drawn my line in the sand. That's where I'm going to stand. And you don't cross it, and you don't back down from it. That's where I'm standing. So no matter what gets thrown at me, kids that reject you, relationships that go south, deaths, whatever, I'm standing here because this is where I identify. And then whatever comes is what comes, and you battle those things as you go. But it's such a different perspective than I've put all my eggs in this basket, and then it let me down. And now what do? I don't even know how to function.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's, you know, and it's so great that, like, you can speak those words into kids, you know, like, and I even joke sometimes, it's amazing that I can even hold on a conversation because of everything that nobody teach me nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I was like literally like, you know, wild out there. Like, I had nothing. And nobody taught me nothing. Nobody shared any kind of encouraging words. Nobody, nothing. You know what I mean? It was like, so it's crazy that I'm even sitting here today, you know, like that I'm not more dysfunctional, should I say.
well, that kind of brings me to the verse. This is one I thought of when I was thinking of, like, what do I have for today? And it says, this is Paul in 1 Corinthians. To the weak I became weak, that I might win the weak. And I have become all things to all men, that I may by all means save some. And I do all the things for the sake of the gospel, that I may become a fellow or partaker of it. That's your story in a nutshell. You had to become weak over and over and over again so that you could be the thing you needed to be, when that's what you needed when you were in your moment. And now you know exactly what would have benefited you and what direction you can push people to have that motivation, that passion.
Yeah, it's true. And it's really like, you know, and then Paul will talk about running the race, and which I just love, because anytime God talks about running in there or perseverance.
I'll read it for you. It says, do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may win. And everyone who competes in the games exercises self-control in all things. And then they do it to receive perishable wealth, but we do it to receive an imperishable. Therefore, I run in such a way as not without aim. I box in a way that I'm not beating the air. I buffet my body and I make it my slave. Yes, possibly after I have preached to others, I will not be disqualified.
The way that I have clung to that verse, so these last 2 years, you know, was the marriage trial. And January of 2024, when I talk about movement and exercise and kind of where that's got me to, January 6th, I like to run or whatever, never really been a long distance runner, but January 6th was like, I had this supernatural like desire to like run a marathon. And I'm like, I mean, I like to run, but my knees hurt sometimes when I run too much, you know, but I'm like, it was just like this, I want to do it, like for commit, do it, you know, not just a thought in the distance. Anyways, I committed to it, not even really thinking, you know, and then January 23rd is when, some stuff happened in our marriage where it shook us to where, you know, we're by God's grace, we're here still. But January 23rd is when that happened, when I got the news. And still that desire didn't go away. But in that is when God was going to, from January till April, I ran my marathon. But the hours that it takes to do that, so the amount of time that I got to be within those four walls of that gym and cry and wrestle and wrestle and wrestle and wrestle with my flesh. And that's when too God provided these women. So I was able to share, you know, and be open and transparent about what was actually happening in my life. And women were able to come alongside me and hold me accountable while still watching me struggle in my flesh. And still like watching this all happen, like God just had all these women like holding me, and then in the same hand on the inside of me, he's like, Joy, I'm going to need you to walk through the most physically thing you've ever done, because I'm going to need you to know that you know that you know that you can walk through what's ahead. And that's what movement did for me. And it was just continually reminding me, Joy, like your mind is going to physically have to make your body do this, because your mind is going to have to make your emotions forgive. Your mind is going to have to make you walk through these things like that I'm calling you to walk through. And then in April, I ran that marathon, and then he was like, I'm not quite done yet, Joy. So I'm like, okay, like what? And then I wanted to run an ultra, and I ran up Romanos, and this was in July, and then Kyle was there like giving me water or whatever along the way. By the time I got to the end, it was like I was up in those mountains for 5.5 hours, like alone, and like still, you know, wrestling with bitterness and anger and so much stuff, you know. And when I got to the end of that, of course, I still have struggles, and I'll say even about this verse to this day, how this verse still helps me, like this last week. But, but I got to the end of that, and Kyle was standing there, and it was like the scales had came off my eyes, and I'm like, I can't do this without you. Like, God just like, because I was alone, and God's like, I don't, he got me alone where he needed me to be able to shape my heart and keep it from, you know, it was getting hard. It was, you know, when, like I said, pain's the biggest liar. Like going through anything where someone does something to you, you know what I mean? It's like, you think that you have the right, like you, like, and even in all of that, you know what I mean? I was, you know what I mean? I haven't been perfect, you know what I mean? Like going through all these seasons, I've had my shortcomings as far as, you know, lying to my husband, or, you know, falling short and betrayal in lots of ways, you know. So it's like God still allowed those things too, even though I'm a follower of Christ, because a lot of times we think like, oh, we're not going to sin or whatever. No, I fell short a lot of times too. So God reminded me, Joy, we all fall short. So even when I was going to walk through something else, like what kind of lens are you going to look at this through, you know? But exercise was I'm a pretty stubborn person. Exercise was the mental aspect that I needed to have the physical fruit of walking through this. And I used to tell people before that, I'm like, the reason I train is because I need to mentally know I can keep my mouth shut. I don't have to disrespect my husband. That was always kind of like a joke, you know? Little did I know it was going to be like my like MO for even now. Like I tell women, like we train because life is hard. Like we're not a victim to life and its circumstances. Like we need to mentally be able to be ahead of our laundry, our job, our this, our that. The second you let it come down, it's because, and I don't mean this bad, but your mind is weak, you know? And I don't mean that mean, you know, but we can train that. And that's like when he's talking about here, we need to mentally make our bodies do it. We have to bring it into submission, and that is a command from God. And the one thing that I love about that verse is that when he says the runners, they run, they have a specific task. They're not stopping on the way, right? So when I think of this with my walk, it really helps me, because I'm like thinking, you know, I'm so passionate about Jesus, and I know that eternity is on the line here, and that's, you know, in all of this, yes, I get to steward all of these things, but this is this race. And I just kind of like imagine myself, and then all of a sudden I stop and I sit down and I'm like, ooh, bitterness. ooh, unforgiveness. You know, and it's like, no, 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 no. Put it down.
Yeah.
Run the race, you know, because so often all of us, like I said, last week I pick it up and I'm like, you know, start a fight with my husband because of this, that, the other thing. It's like, Joy, run the race that's been set before you. It's that simple. Run it. Like, and I just love how God has brought me to this place too of like health and stuff, as well as like giving me scripture, because I did struggle, and I still have times where, you know, vanity, or what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, where are you taking this joy? Your pride, you're idling it, you know, all of these things. And God has been faithful to, even in my modesty of how I show myself, like showing up for this, he's grown me in that, you know, like he's going to finish the work that he started in me, you know, and being, surrendering to that, but also using my mind to know that he wants me to tend to the physical aspects. I've seen the battle time and time again. Like, there's no, it's not time to back down, because I mean, I don't want to try and think about how the next one's going to trump the last one, but they're coming, you know what I mean? Like, whether it's the battle, like I said, for some people it's getting out of bed in the morning, you know what I mean? For some of it's who knows, your kids, run away, whatever, like fill in the blank. Are you going to be ready to be able to handle it when it happens? And this is what I do now, like, and this is like where God has me basically training, you know, which, like I said, kind of scares me, because it's like, oh gosh, what, like, are you training me for, Lord? Like, you know, strong mind. But, and I've always, like I said, been bold, but at the same time, this is, I feel like, it's, you know, just like we talked about shaving, it's really cool when you kind of see them like just draw you and draw you and draw you and draw you in, and then you just see it all kind of overlap. I gave you this to prepare you for this, to prepare you for this, and it's like, it's just really, really beautiful.
And then more peaceful. Well,
Totally.
I'm just always, I'm so impressed with how you function every day. I just get to see little clips of it. I know you're so busy with raising kids and homeschool and your business, and we've got this whole thing going on out here, and I feel like we see each other a few times a year and can kind of catch up, but your story is inspiring, and I get to probably hear more pieces of your story as I'm in the community and hear people that you've inspired and people that you've touched and improved on their lives because of your story. I think it's powerful. I hope someday there's a movie. It would be one heck of a movie if you
It
ever.
would be crazy.
It would be wild, but it would be very cool. It'd be inspirational for everyone to be able to see that. So, thank you. Thanks for sharing it.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is just like, if women could really understand, like, you have the God of the universe chasing you, like wanting you, like nothing else, like not just your skills as a mom, not just whatever it is, like, and he wants your worst. That's what he expects, because it's all we have, you know, like, and in that is when the beauty of, obviously, like I say, the beauty from ashes, you know, because then we get to put on Christ and all of his stuff, you know. Until we put down our stuff, we can't fully walk in that freedom, you know.
So tell me, just like, give me your like 2-minute plug on Aging with Grace. What's it all about?
So Aging with Grace is like my heart and soul here. I have a private gym here where I train women only. And then I have an app now, which is really cool, because with that, when we talked about that last marriage trial, actually God gave me that at the beginning of that trial, and that was actually my diamond through all of that stuff. If it hadn't have been for what we walked through, I wouldn't have had the app, because we wouldn't have been in line with the people that we were in line with. So God gave me a little gold nugget. Like, I'm sure there was lots, but that specific one that was a desire of my heart, actually, for lots of years. So I only have, you know, so much time to be able to train women in person, but the next step of that is my app, which is faith-driven strength training. So my desire and my goal is that women would steward their bodies, and they would do it from a place of glorifying God, that we would honor God with that, not because we're broken, not because we have weight we have to lose. Well, you may have weight we have to lose, it's okay, we can, but it's more about freedom and walking in freedom of that. And I really just care about women being able to have strong bodies. Like, even right now, like, as you know, like, we take care of my mother-in-law, like every time I run down those stairs, you know, like, we are going to be those parents soon, right? So like, what am I doing now for my kids, but also how am I tending to my mother-in-law or my mom, right? Like, I just want us women to have strong bodies, and that comes specifically from strength training, not just working out, not just running. Like, there's a way that it needs to be done. So I've simplified that, put it in the app so it's accessible, that any woman can partake should she choose, right?
How do you find
So-
the app?
On the Google Play Store or on Apple. Like it's
And it's called Aging with Grace.
AWG Fitness.
AWG Fitness.
Yep.
Oh, cool! I'm really excited to find that one.
Yeah,
That's
so you
exciting.
can, yeah, it's got really cool stuff. It's got a community built in, a way to track your habits.
Nice.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. It's really, yeah, like I said, it was a dream that God gave me in a really dark time.
Yeah.
Another one of, we could have a whole nother thing about all the different little lights God turned
Yeah.
on for me to light my way through the darkness. There, like, that were just, honestly, there were like
Yeah.
worldly things, but God still cares too.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, they weren't to feed the flesh, you know what I mean? So there's a difference between God delivering, we say give our heart's desires as we're like desiring for the biggest house, you know what I mean? It's not like that, you know what I mean? Like, the desires of your heart that He knows, as we're lining up with His desires.
You have so much stuff that comes out of you. I know this will not be the last podcast you're on. I'm sorry.
Kyle was
You're
even
coming back.
Kyle was even saying, he's like, we could do a couple one
Yeah.
because he's got an incredible
Yeah,
testimony
I know.
too. He's
Yeah,
like,
I
maybe we
would
could
love
put it
that.
all kind of together in those little
That would be
vague
cool.
spots,
It's cool. I remember, I'm pretty sure it was at the church up here on the corner that my dad baptized Kyle
Yeah.
when we were in high school.
Yeah.
And so the story, how it's all weaved together and our paths kind of keep crossing, and
Right.
it's just been a cool thing. Like you said, looking backwards is just a different perspective, but to be able to look back and see how your path and my path have been going to collide at some point
Right.
has been a cool thing to see.
Yeah. God
I'm
is-
very thankful for it.
God is cool.
Mhm.
Yeah. He's big. He's big. He's cool.
Dang right. Well, thank you very much for coming, and thank you all for listening. And I hope you really are able to take some nuggets that Joy had to offer. Her life is an incredible testimony to God, and the resiliency and the courage and the bravery that it takes to just one foot in front of the other sometimes. And I'm just so thankful for her. So thank you, and we'll leave the porch light on for you.